Hello and welcome once again to The Blueprints. This is Canada's Conservative Podcast. I'm your host, Jamie Schmale, Member of Parliament for Haliburton, Kawartha Lakes, Brock, with new content for you every single Tuesday, 1:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share this program because on today's show, we are talking about Bill C-380. It's a ban on single-use plastic items. We're trying to reverse that ban. Unfortunately, it failed, but to talk about this and much, much more, we bring on Branden Leslie, the Member of Parliament for Portage-Lisgar in Manitoba. Thanks for coming on the show.
My pleasure to be here, Jamie. I'm always excited to come and join you on this fantastic podcast.
I appreciate the kind words. Keep that up. We'll have you on every week. All right, so we had a private member's bill by one of our members from Saskatchewan, Corey Tucker, in an attempt basically to reverse the unconstitutional ban on plastics imposed by the federal government. We tried that. Unfortunately, it failed. The Bloc NDP and Liberals voted to basically destroy the bill and continue on with this unconstitutional plastic ban.
Yeah, Costly Coalition struck again against common sense. And I find it interesting. When I go talk to a school, one of the questions I always get from kids is, will you bring back plastic straws? And I think it just goes to show how frustrating the alternatives that have emerged are. Paper straws, the paper bags, no more plastic bags. And what this really stems from, and why it was a good bill, is it reversed what was terrible legislation to begin with that ruled that all plastics are toxic. They used the Canadian Environmental Protection Act and said everything is toxic if they're plastic, which turns out they don't have the constitutional authority to do so. So it is still before the courts, and the government, I'm sure, is going to stick to their guns and try to appeal this over and over again. But, you know, there is some really impactful outcomes that have come from this, other than just our frustrations. You know, the fact that instead of using a grocery bag in your, your garbage can in your bathroom, now you go and spend money on Glad or whatever other brand bags to use instead. And in the plastic straws, we have seen something like PFAS is what they're called. It's a forever chemical, and not every PFAS is bad. It's a very useful chemical, but it's not something that we should be associating with human health or are necessarily leaching in our environment because it's not biodegradable. And the reality is, Canada is not the problem. Plastic pollution is a serious problem. I think in my view and all Canadians' views, people around the world, it is a very serious problem, but Canada contributes 0.02% of all the plastics in our oceans. We are not the problem. There's about 5 countries in Asia that contribute 95% of all of this. So to me, this is typical liberal virtue signaling, solution in search of a problem, just to try to make us feel better when it's not actually delivering any environmental outcomes. Normally it's
making
taxes,
everyone's
but now
life
it's
more uncomfortable,
it
right?
frustrates everybody, absolutely.
I think everyone's frustrated with this, right? I drives me crazy, the plastic straw, or the paper straws, the paper lids. I don't know anyone who's happy about it.
Maybe the forestry industry, I suppose there's a few benefits, but I don't know, if you ever tried to eat a really flat wooden spoon, it's just not the same thing, right? It's not as malleable. It is very frustrating. And of course, these bags really, I think, bother everybody. You've seen it in the news lately, particularly the delivery services that take food from the grocery store right to your apartment door. People have hundreds and hundreds of these bags. I know I do. Everybody does. And the problem is, again, a good idea, well, let's use something reusable. Reduce, reuse, recycle, fair enough. It takes about 50 to 70 to 90 times, somewhere in that range, depending on the type of bag being used. So non-woven polypropylene bags is about 50 times. I have 50 bags. I have not used each one of them 50 times. And when I say it takes the use of 50 times to be the same environmental impact as one single-use plastic bag. So again, it's something that is ultimately worse for our environment because it's meant to make us feel better, but is not achieving any objective results. And in fact, it's actually even worse for human health and our environment.
Typical of the Liberal agenda at the same time. And as we deal with a cost of living crisis, food bank usage is at all-time highs, more people struggling, skipping meals, watering down different liquids like baby formula and stuff like that. One of the most significant, or some of the significant cost increases, besides the carbon tax, is because grocery stores and retailers have had to move away from some of the plastics, which is causing the increase, right? It's all part and parcel of what the Liberals have done.
Well, and it's only going to get worse. If they're left at the helm here, there are some crazier ideas in terms of plastics that this government is trying to advance. And it is going to have a huge impact on food prices. So one of them is that all of the goods that are shipped to our grocery stores, you think of strawberries, any other fresh fruit that comes from California when it's out of season here, obviously buy local when we can, but we can't do that all year round. You know, it keeps our fruits nice and soft and well maintained. We've got plastic bags for our salad kits that now last 2 weeks in the fridge. We've maintained our capacity to prevent food waste, which is a very important piece. So one of their objectives is to get rid of all of that and have plastics not be in grocery stores. Well, Deloitte did a study on this, and it's going to increase the cost of food about 35%, or at least those involved using plastics. And worse, because of the food waste increase that we're going to see, all that food being diverted into a landfill, which is frustrating at a time of high food prices, food insecurity, food bank use, it's going to increase our emissions. Again, we're trying to find things to do that make people think that they are doing good is not real environmental policy. But this wacko environment minister, that is his modus operandi. Try to make people feel like they're doing something. This radical approach is going to drive up the cost of food for Canadians even further, as you say, after a time of a lot of pain and suffering. Heading into the holidays, a warm meal isn't really going to be feasible for a lot of people, and that's devastating, I think.
Yeah, for the Liberals, I think it's just talking points so they feel better about themselves at dinner parties. Well, since you mentioned our wonderful environment minister, Stephen Guilbeault, let's have a clip of that guy and this registry, plastics registry. Play cut 1.
The registry will require plastic producers to take more responsibility for the plastic they put on the market. Every year, from now on, they must declare the quantity and types of plastic they supply, how these plastics move through the economy, and how they are managed at the end of their life.
This sounds like a bureaucratic nightmare.
Reminds me of the long gun registry. It's a billion-dollar boondoggle waiting to happen.
Yeah.
And what a frustration for all of the companies that use plastics in any of their products.
Yeah.
This is going to cost money.
That's right.
And who's going to house all this data? What is going to be done with it? And where are the costs going to go? They're going to go to consumers. There's simply no other option. So when I talk about this radical minister and wacko ideas, this is another great example. They're just on a hell-bent path to try to make life as unaffordable as they possibly can for Canadians. And unfortunately, they're succeeding thus far.
Yeah, sadly. And they do this a lot, right, with regulations behind the scenes, not requiring a vote in Parliament or politicians to be accountable for those decisions. It's done through the bureaucratic structure, right? Make life so difficult for these companies so they just give up and do as the government, dictates, right? This is not the way to do things through regulation, but it's crippling business. Investments fleeing the country. We're staring down potential tariffs, and we're just increasing step by step how uncompetitive we are.
They hide and obfuscate. I have a lot of fun with Minister Guilbeault. As a proud member of the Environment Committee, he hides and obfuscates on a very regular basis. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, but the problem is he has an agenda and he's implementing that. Let's queue up cut 2. Talk about you in committee. Let's play cut 2.
Do you honestly believe that Canadians can afford another carbon tax right now?
What I have said is that there are discussions at the International Maritime Organization, and we're part of those discussions.
Why would you be discussing if you don't plan on doing it?
There's a discussion on a number of issues at the International Maritime Organization.
That you don't plan on doing that? Why would you have international discussions if you don't plan on acting on them? What an odd waste of time.
Well, it's a complex problem. We're looking at different. There's conversation on a number of different issues that Canada is a part of. Some of the.
Well, disrupt committee and throw you off track. Give the minister time to regroup and take a breath here.
The Liberals, despite not being a very united team right now, do a great job of coming to the defense of their minister when he is flailing and floundering. And in fact, one of my Liberal colleagues across the way, Leah Taylor-Roy, went so far as to claim that there were no carbon taxes in Canada, never mind 3 later in that same meeting. It's a bundle of fun because when they're on the ropes, rightfully so, and in the context of this, it is a carbon tax. It's not just on us, though. They want a global carbon tax on everything that they ship around the world.
There's the shipping one,
We're gonna make Canadians pay. We're gonna drive up the cost of everything. We're gonna collect money and then send it elsewhere.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. So we don't make things in this country anymore because the regulatory environment is so onerous. We have taxes left, right, and center, and they want more.
Yep.
So business is fleeing, capital is fleeing, and then they say, well, because you want stuff, we're going to tax that too.
Absolutely.
It's unbelievable.
Again, it's an effort to try to drive as many Canadians into poverty as they can. There's no other way to explain away behaviors like this, because the unfortunate reality is they're failing in terms of their emissions reductions targets. We are the worst in the G7. We're ranked 62nd out of 67th on a recent report that came out in terms of our environmental outcomes. We're failing despite the punishing policies and taxes that are being placed on us. They always talk about environmental plans. They don't have environmental plans. They have tax plans.
Well, even the stuff they're doing, that's for you, right? That's not for me.
Yep.
That's for thee.
Yep, exactly.
This is what it is about, right?
It's
you can't travel.
Yep.
Don't go. What did Mark Collins say this past session? You're going to burn the planet if you take the kids on a vacation in the car.
That was a wild thing.
That was insane.
So this Guilbeault fella, remember, this is the guy that scaled the CN Tower and was arrested. He was a radical Greenpeace activist.
And went after the Premier of Alberta when his wife was home alone.
Of course, yeah. He went and terrified her on the second story of their house. He even went as far as to say that we shouldn't be building any more roads.
Yes.
So
I love that one.
Forget road trips. We're not even going to build any roads for you to think about getting on them. It's wacko, radical. I don't have enough great words to describe this man.
So we'll just stay in our boxes and...
well, ivory towers if you're him, but boxes for us.
That's true. No, but he can still travel.
Yes.
He'll still have the best cuts of meat, stay at the best hotels, so he can give lectures on why the little people should not be...
The high-flying, high-carbon hypocrite is a good summary. And many Canadians will find this interesting, because I sure did when I found out. He made up a new position called the Climate Change Ambassador that also flies all over the world lecturing other countries on why they should have carbon taxes. An astounding use of taxpayer money, in my view.
Yeah, with policy that doesn't even make sense for some countries, right?
I think that we should export things that we make and produce in this country, not radical ideas like that.
Yeah, we need the jobs here. We need to build things here. Create opportunities, wealth for our people.
What a novel idea.
Right? What a novel, common sense.
It's a common sense idea.
As we've said a few times on the show, you know, the liberals, especially those that think they're in the elite bunch, the ones that we're talking about that fly and lecture those that try to have a vacation once a year, right? You can't agree with what is known as common amongst people, right? Because to agree, common sense, then you're not elite. So you have to come up with these ridiculous positions to set yourself aside,
differentiate
right?
yourself. Well, it's hard to understand common sense when you haven't really lived a normal life. Like, look at our prime minister. That man has never
had to worry.
Never lived a normal day in his life. And you know, you can forgive him for, you know, he didn't control that necessarily, but why he's so out of touch and why guys like Minister Guilbeault and, well, frankly, most of their cabinet, it explains why they're so out of touch and why they don't understand. When we say it's common sense, it doesn't click in with them, right?
Yeah, because he is feeling, and I'm sure many of his caucus agree with him, that they know best. Right? You can tell with all the different programs they keep bringing in, right? They have to be paid somehow. Most are run on the credit card, right?
Yep.
And they will impose the program that you are allowed to get, whether you like it or not, whether you need it or not. Doesn't matter. You're going to get it.
And we're going to make you so poor first that you think you're going to need it.
Yes, exactly.
And then we're going to come in and save the day.
That is what they seem to be doing every time. They create the problem. And then they say, we're here to solve it. Don't worry, we've got this. And it fails.
Stop at the solutions, guys. The Liberals need to stop at solutions.
Right. That's right. Branden, the time's pretty much up, but I appreciate you coming on. As you know, the guests get the last words. At the floor is yours.
I will just say, it's cold across your riding and mine. There's a lot of people out there struggling. So if you're in a position that you can contribute in some way, help somebody out, I hope you do that.
Don't plan a family vacation, because you're going to burn that planet.
You're destroying the planet. Exactly.
Branden Leslie, the Member of Parliament for Portage Lisgar in Manitoba. Appreciate your time.
My pleasure.
Appreciate yours as well. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share this program. We want Pierre Poilievre to be the next Prime Minister of Canada. We need your help to do that. Tell your friends they can download this program on CastBox, iTunes, Google Play, and Spotify. You name it, it is out there. Until next week at 1:30 p.m. Eastern Time, remember, low taxes, less government, more freedom. That's the blueprint.